people say they have a high-power scope. This is the scope that says, hold my biru, because this is the March Majesta from day on, the most powerful scope in the world. And that's not just hyperbole. This is an 8 to 80 power, 8-0. And we're going to take a closer look through it on this episode. We're going to skip the unboxing and just show you what you get in the box. This is the March X Highmaster Majesta. This is an 8 by 80, yes, you heard that right, 8 by 80 power by 56 millimeter rifle scope, and one of the premier long-range ELR scopes on the market. This has their new gunmetal gray finish on their premium scopes, and also has some unique design features. Let's start with our illumination. Where you usually would have a battery cap, there's actually a recessed button, and that is your on and off. And the reason behind that is, whereas most scopes where you're adjusting not just your intensity settings on the outer ring, but also turning the illumination on and off, you can accidentally shift your focus when you turn that. Well, this way, once you have your intensity set up, which is, where your lighting conditions probably aren't going to be changing all that much from each setup, you just turn it on and off by pressing that button, and it doesn't affect your parallax focus. Now, beneath that intensity ring is your middle ring, which you turn to get at the battery compartment, and inside is a 2032 coin battery. And beneath that, we have our standard parallax ring or knob, and that turns very smoothly. Now, it does come with an extended ring that you can slip on there if you want a little bit wider diameter for finer finger controls on your focus. These are their new shuriken turrets. And that refers to the locking mechanism on top, which is a 4-prong ring at the very top of the cap. You turn that to lock it, red indicator, turn to unlock it, and you can see or hear a very audible and tactile positive turrets without any slop. But once you have your shuriken locked in, that's not turning. It's locked in. And this is preferable to the pull and push locking turrets because you can accidentally shift your settings, your turret, when you push it in or pull it out. So this is a much more secure setup for that. Now, it also does have a zero stop function, and you set that by cinching down the center screw here. And you can use this, your handy multi-tool, as I'm using, or it does actually come with a multi-tool. But once you have that cinched down, you have your zero stop. Now, one caveat and one complaint I have about this zero stop is it's not super precise. I have, as much as you cinch this down, you can, if you torque this a little bit more than lightly, you can exceed your zero. So yeah, this is not a precise rock solid zero stop by any stretch. So let me just unlock that. There we go. Now, our windage, also very audible, very tactile positive, with a good set of markings on the side here to indicate which direction you're turning and adjusting your turret. And each click is 1/8 of an MOA, and they also make a MILRAD version of that. And I love the fact that they made the effort to make this turret 10 MOA per rotation, and for the MIL version, it's 5 mil per rotation, so that's easy math in your head. The windage also has a shuriken lock, and the turret is resettable. Once you have your zero set up, you just unscrew these 3 set screws on here, pop off your turret, put it down to 0, and Bob's your uncle, you're ready to go. All right, so our magnification ring turns very smoothly. There is a little bit of a nub there to help you with leverage, but should you need to, you can attach the included throw lever. Now, some complain about the quality of this, and I was a little bit dismayed when I first got my hands on this because this feels so cheap and chintzy compared to the rest of the scope, but there is some method to this madness. There is a little recessed area inside the bottom of this throw lever, and that mates to the nub on the ring, and once you snap on your ring, this feels solid, rock solid. There's no play in here now at all. And this is actually designed to be a breakaway because, well, if you had a metal throw lever, or worse off, a screw-in metal throw lever, if you're running this in competition, in an action competition where you're jamming this up against a barricade or something, those vibrations can get transferred into your scope, and with very high-end, very small tolerance kind of scopes like this, those vibrations can actually affect the internal mechanisms. So they designed this so that it wouldn't impart those vibrations or those impacts onto the internal mechanisms of the scope using this sort of breakaway plastic lever here. And heaven forbid you should ever drop your scope. You don't want to transfer that kind of pressure and impact to your scope mechanism. Our rear diopter is very old school. You can see here it's a whole bell that moves, and there is a locking ring. So you unscrew that, you can turn your diopter freely, and this is butter smooth. And then once you have it set up for your eye, you just turn that ring and it locks down. So that's your main features of the scope. One thing I should also add is that they included this, what they call a modifier disc, and this is a filter that goes in the front of your objective bell here. And the reason behind this is it functions like in photography lenses. It stops down your aperture, or reduces your objective size. And you may think, oh, well, that's not good because you're losing light. Yes, you are losing a little bit of light. But the reason behind this is by putting this on here for long range shooting, you're actually increasing your area of focus, because you're reducing your aperture, and that means more foreground objects are in focus, and that could help you if you're spotting for yourself and trying to spot splashes forward of your target. So there you go. All right, so this is a beautiful beast, and we're going to be taking it out and taking a look through the glass next. Before we get into the tests, I'd like to take a quick break here and talk about this episode's sponsor, Aura. For the price of a typical VPN, not only am I getting VPN service, but I'm getting spam blockers, junk mail blockers, fraud alerts, scam alerts, and credit monitoring. Try it out yourself for free. Go to aura.com/moondog and sign up for a 14-day free trial. No commitments. You know, identity fraud is a real thing, and with AI, it's all too easy to spoof your identity. That's why you should try out Aura. All right, let's get back to the tests. We are looking through the March Majesta at its lowest power of 8 to get our best overall image through the glass. And actually I have to adjust this exposure on the camera down slightly just because it's so bright through the glass that it's blowing out all color and detail in the sky. And now a little better balanced, we're looking at the image and it is nice and crisp and clear from center to the outer edge. Because as we increase magnification, and I'm going to bring it up to 20, we are magnifying all the faults in the glass. And I'm going to pause here at 20 power, which is typically the top of many scopes. And the image here is really still very sharp. Now let's bring it up to its halfway point, which typically is the sweet spot for many optics. And for this scope, it is 40 power, which is higher than most scopes top out at. And let me readjust the exposure yet again. We lost a little bit of light. There we go. And even at 40 power, any touch on this camera causes the image to shake because we are at really high magnification for most scopes. And I can clearly make out the trail marker sign at the top of the hill there. That is an 8-foot tall pole with a 36-inch steel sign atop of it. And not only can I see that sign clearly, but I can also make out the concrete power box below it. Oh, and there's a hiker that's come into our view. All right, let's bring this up to its maximum of 80 power, which is really high. Let me adjust the exposure yet again. Open it up a little bit. And There we go. And our hiker is actually standing on top of that power box there in front of the sign. Okay, so we're seeing a lot of detail. Not only can I see the sign, but I actually can see some detail on the sign at this magnification. And this is actually quite remarkable. But we can't really see any chromatic aberration. But here, let me tilt this up to the tree line. And typically that's where we'll see any CA. We're looking at reference targets downrange at 100 yards. And as I bring up the magnification, we're going to stop momentarily about a quarter way. This is 20 power. Now let's bring it up all the way to 40 power, which is halfway in its magnification range. And let me just adjust the exposure again, because we did lose some light. But the image we're getting just at halfway in its magnification is stunning. There's a lot of color vibrancy in the color reference chart in the top left. I can make out individual squares in the gray scales on either side of that color circle. And I can make out 22 caliber bullet holes below the reactive sticker target on the bottom left. In our Air Force optical resolution chart on the bottom right, I can make out both horizontal and vertical lines down to element 4 in group 0, which is remarkable. Now, this would be a good opportunity to just check our range of adjustments, starting with our elevation. And that's the top. And that's the bottom. All right, I'll bring this turret back to 0. There. And now let's check out our windage. Okay, that's all the way to the right. That's all the way to the left. Okay, let's bring this back to 0. So let's do a box test on our elevation, full rotation on our elevation, full rotation on our windage, back down on our elevation to 0, and back on our windage to 0. Let's do the turret abuse test. All right, let's just bring this back to 0 on both of our turrets. And we're back to 0. All right, so obviously it passed our turret abuse test. So now we can actually go into our maximum magnification here. But as you can see, this is what 80 power looks like through the scope, and I'd be hard pressed. I have to move this scope around just to see all of our other references. But let's just take a look at our resolution chart there. There we go. So that is what our resolution chart looks like at 80 power. That's what kind of detail we can resolve with this scope. And let's take a look at the illumination. And that's with it on at maximum, because if we bring it down to a minimum, you're not going to see it. And just bring it over to the left of the darkened area on our backing there, our backstop. And it is about the center third of our crosshairs. And let me just bring this magnification up here so you can see it a little better. And I would say this is twilight bright in terms of illumination. Certainly not, I wouldn't call this daylight bright. I'd like to thank March for lending me this Majesta to test with, albeit for a short time since I do have to send this back. But it's a rare opportunity that I do get a chance to be so hands-on with such a rare, exotic, and expensive scope at over $4,000. That's well out of my league, but it certainly does perform. Now, I'm curious, have you heard of the March brand and their scopes? A lot of folks outside of the PRS and ELR community have never heard of the brand, but let me know in the comments what kind of reputation, or if you have heard of the brand. Now, for those of you who are hoping to see me shoot this at 1,000 yards, I'm sorry to disappoint. The nearest 1,000-yard range is like 3 hours away from me. So, but you did get a chance to see this tested using my standard reference targets at 100 yards and at 1,400 yards, and it does perform. Now, the only thing that I would say that's perhaps disappointing about the scope is its zero stop, which I did not think was foolproof, because this fool wasn't able to really set it so that it was consistent. But again, it could just be user error. But if you are interested in picking up one of these scopes, and if you have the means, by all means, consider it. I'll include product links as well as more information in my full write-up at moondogindustries.com. Use those links and it helps support this channel. And of course, you can simply support this channel by hitting the like button. It's absolutely free, just takes a second. And consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. It's absolutely free to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell icon. And it just takes a second to do that. So I appreciate you taking the time to press those buttons. And I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. You be safe out there. Moondog out. I do have to send this back, right? I can't keep it? Oh well. Hey, I'd like to know what you thought of this video. Leave me a comment or chat with me on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, MeWe, Instagram, or Locals. And if you want to see all of my videos, go to moondogindustries.com.